We have a continuation of our previous video on the yellow. This is what it looks like, and what I'm going to do today is show you guys a method of using oil paints to take this model to another level. Now with oil paints, there's two ways to do it. The first one is to go over with no sort of varnish, or at least a matte varnish, and what that will do is it will tint the armor and it will give it a overall darker look. Tends to be more for your grimdark style in comparison to what we're going to do. We're going to do over this with a gloss varnish, and the gloss varnish is basically going to break the surface tension. It's going to allow an oil paint to run into all the recesses, so things around the feet, the knees, the fingers, the torso, the helmet, shoulder pads and whatnot. Again, this can be done. You can do this with washes from whatever company. Obviously, you have to be a lot more careful, because if you do make a mistake, it is hard to clean up once you've done an airbrush model. You can't just repaint a panel with a brush. You will see a difference. Whereas with oil paints, you get pretty much unlimited time to fix any mistakes, and we'll go over that today. So I'm going to show you what we're going to use, and we'll get started. So the two things we're going to use our oil paint. In the case of this, we're going to use burnt umber. This will go really nice with our undertone of the Mournfang brown. But if you had black, you could use black here. If you had like a Payne's grey, a little bit colour to it, you could use that as well. The other thing you're going to need is white spirits. This is just a generic DIY brand. If you really want to, you can go out and buy the artist spirits, which tend to be odorless. If you're okay with the smell of white spirits, yeah, obviously if you're doing a lot of this, maybe go with the odorless one. But let's show you how to set it up. Super simple. I use a plastic, I think it's a Pringles lid. I use a lot of these for mixing oil paints, just because nice surface area, nice lip and whatnot. So I tend to keep them. Again, don't use good brushes here. Use old brushes. I have a brush here that's very old. It was never a good brush, but it's got a nice tip on it still, so it'll help. You don't want like a big flat brush here. So we're going to take a little bit, and a little bit goes a very long way. So I tend to use these a hell of a lot more than what I use washes. These have the same thing, and you're paying sort of a little bit more for one of these. I think these are about £6 each, whereas if you compare it to a Citadel wash or a Citadel contrast, you're looking at like £4 something. But this will last years, whereas a contrast paint, if you're using it every day, or if your entire army, you're going to go through a good amount over the course of that army's life. So let's grab some white spirits. I'm going to use a pipette, or a pipette, however you want to pronounce it, just because it's a lot easier. So we're going to add some on. Again, if you've never done this before, it'll be a bit take a few attempts to sort of get the right consistency. You want something that flows nice, but you also want something that has enough colour to it. You don't want it too diluted that it just runs on the model. So, and you'll have a really good working time with this. So I'm just checking the consistency, how it runs, and I think we'll be okay with that. I'm almost getting carried away with myself. I forgot to do a varnish. So I use Army Painter gloss varnish. If you have Vallejo, whatever, if you have a can, this works as well. Even if you don't want to do this style of armor, but you want to do this style of washing, even if you paint the armor with a brush and then go over it with a can of varnish, it has to be gloss for how we're doing it. And then go over with the oil paint will work just as fine. So I've done like a 1-to-1 mix of paint, so 50-50. I'm just going to go all over the entire model. Super simple, thin layers. We'll probably do 3 here. And what I just want to mention why I'm doing this quickly is one of the things that I see people speak about with varnishes, when you do oil paints on varnishes, is that the paint rubs off. Well, white spirits will not affect acrylic paints. They don't interact. It won't have any effect. What's happening is you're either using a brush that's too hard, you're applying too much pressure, and you're rubbing over the same area too much. So if your paint does come off, it is one of those reasons. You have to be gentle. You have to use a nice soft brush, nothing that's gonna, you know, you don't want a hard raggedy brush that's gonna scrape. Yeah, so just something to remember if you do experience that, because if you've never done this, you probably will, but don't be disheartened. You know, you can always try this on old models. You can try this on bits of plastic that you have lying around. So it's super simple to do. So I'm going to do the other layers of this varnish, and we'll get on to the exciting part. Okay, so the model is now varnished. We're going to start. So let's try and pick an area that'll be easy to see. We'll do this shoulder pad. And you can see how the paint goes on. Now this might be a little bit too thick because it's not flowing perfectly. So let me grab a bit more white spirits. Now we'll try. Just tap it on, and you can see how it runs into the recesses. Now, again, you don't have to be particularly neat. There's nothing stopping you here going all over the model. You can start to see on the chest how it folds in there. We'll do around the eagle. If you wanted to do this on the whole model, totally fine. You can clean everything up. You cannot make a mistake with this. So you don't have to be, you know, we've just put a load on that by mistake. So I'll take a lot of that off, but we'll leave it on there. I'll show you how we clean it up later. So we're going to go around the knee pad. We'll go around the toes, or the weird little, like, don't know, armor bits. Around this bit, in these little recesses on the ankle bit. Do the abs. We'll go over the face. The face is obviously quite hard to do because there's a lot of detail, so we'll just do an all over with this. But that's sitting in those recesses now, it's darkening them down. Same with the fingers, there's a load of knuckles, so we're just going to go over the entire thing. Again, where you've got one thing, so like just on here, oops, that's way too much. Take some of that off. There we go. Leave that on. So what I will show you, just, there we go. We'll leave that there, we'll let that dry on that hand. That'll be our how we fix mistakes. So yeah, I'm going to go around the entire model, do this, and then we'll be back. So here we have it. I've sped up the drying process with a hairdryer. Now drying is a loose term because it looks dry, but it will still come off. Like even if you rub it with your hand, your finger, you'll get bits coming off. Got a tub of white spirits. I'm going to clean my brush. If this is how you clean it, if you wasn't sure. Now you've got three methods really of getting this off. You could use a makeup sponge, you know, cotton buds, or a brush. Depends on how you want to do it. For me, I like cotton buds. I feel you have a bit more control. We're going to dip it in, we don't want it soaking wet. And where we made that mistake on the hand, we're just going to roll it on. I'm not going to rub because that's just going to, you know, start to get the paint off, but we're going to rub. We're going to roll, sorry. And we are back to how it was. That's how you fix mistakes. Super simple. Sponge, again, you don't have to necessarily put any white spirits on this. You can just go over, and this will not get in any of those recesses, plainly because it's, you know, it's a sponge. So sponges are good for all over. Brush, the cotton tips are better for a more, what's the word? More controlled. So because we want to keep this in the recesses, but we want the rest of the model to be relatively clean, I'm going to use this. You can see it's coming off. Super quick, super simple. Work with the recesses, a bit like dry brushing, I guess. Helmet. backpack. If you can't get in any of those little spots, then that's where your brush comes in handy, or your cotton tip and whatnot. I'm going to go over here. And you can see how quick this is, and it's relatively straightforward. I'm not really taking any particular care when doing this. I'm just going over the model where I can see where any of the oil wash has settled. And we're slowly getting there. Again, there'll be a few spots I can't get with this, so I will go over with a brush, but you get the general idea of this. So yeah, I'm going to finish this off with the brush and whatnot, and then we'll be done. And once you're done and you're happy with the final result, stick a varnish on it, whether you want to go gloss again or you want to go matte, totally fine. That will seal it in and you will not be able to take it off. But until you've done that, you can go back and forth with these steps until you get it to a point you're happy with. If you take too much off, put some more on. If you haven't got, you know, if you feel like you've got too much on, take some off. It's entirely up to you. Just saw a bit there that I missed, so, and it's annoying me, so we'll go in there and get that bit. There we go. So yeah, hope you found this helpful. I will continue with this model. We'll go over detailing and whatnot next on future videos, but I hope you found this helpful. Thanks, guys.